Let's be real, our phones aren't just for calls anymore, right? They're basically extensions of us. They hold everything. Our chats, our photos, where we've been. Our entire personal history is in this little device. And what that means is, when a crime happens, a lot of the time, the most important witness, well, it's sitting right there in an evidence bag. So that brings us to this really specialized field called mobile forensics. And in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to see exactly how investigators get into our phones and unlock the digital secrets that we think are totally safe, or, even the stuff we've deleted. And you have to understand, the amount of data we're talking about here is just staggering. This isn't just about call logs anymore. Investigators are digging into everything. We're talking text messages, the hidden location data in your photos, your web history, your private chats on apps like WhatsApp or Signal, even down to the precise GPS trails of where you've been. Every little piece of it is a potential clue, like a trail of digital breadcrumbs. Okay, so you've got this digital goldmine of evidence. But getting to it, that's not easy. The first and, honestly, the biggest hurdle is the phone itself. Think about it. It's designed from the ground up to keep people out. It's basically a locked, encrypted black box. So, how in the world do they crack it open? Well, investigators really have two main ways of going about it. The first is what's called a logical extraction. The best way to think about this is like politely asking the phone's operating system for its data. Like when you back it up to your computer. It's clean, it's simple, but you only get what the OS decides to show you. The real prize, the holy grail, is a physical extraction. Now, this isn't asking, this is taking. It means creating a perfect bit-for-bit clone of the phone's entire memory. This gets you literally everything, active files, hidden stuff, and most importantly, all that deleted data. And let me tell you, the modern battlefield is seriously complex. Today's phones, whether it's an iPhone or the latest Android, have incredibly powerful encryption baked right into the hardware. They have lock screens that are just a nightmare to bypass. And the evidence? It's not sitting in one neat folder anymore. Oh no, it's scattered across dozens of secure apps. And a lot of the time, it's synced up with the cloud, like iCloud or your Google account. So getting the full picture means you have to defeat all of these defenses at once. So to get around these massive barriers, examiners have to use these super advanced, almost surgical techniques. For example, they might use something called JTAG, which involves connecting to these tiny test points on the phone's circuit board to talk directly to the processor. It's basically a digital wiretap. Or they can get even more hands-on with something called in-system programming, or ISP. This is where they're soldering wires thinner than a human hair directly onto the memory chip to literally read its mind. And on some phone models, they can force the device into a low-level emergency download mode, or EDL, which can let them just dump the entire memory, bypassing the lock screen completely. This is some deep hardware-level stuff. But here's the thing. Getting the data out is only half the battle. A physical extraction doesn't just hand you a nice, neat folder of files. Not even close. What you get is a massive, raw data dump. It's just a chaotic digital soup of ones and zeros. So to turn that mess into something a human can actually read, into actual evidence, well, for that, investigators need some seriously powerful software. And this is where the investigator's toolkit comes in. Here are some of the top players in the game right now. You've got tools like SQLite, which is kind of the industry giant, famous for breaking into the latest and greatest devices. Then there's Magnet Axiom, which is awesome at pulling together evidence from a phone, a computer, and the cloud to see how it all connects. You also have specialists like MSAB's XRY, which is super precise and mobile-focused, and Oxygen Forensic Detective, which is a beast at digging up data from all sorts of apps that other tools might just miss. But here's a little secret from the pros. They never trust just one tool, ever. In any serious case, the findings from one tool, let's say SQLite, are going to be checked and double-checked with another one, like Axiom. Why? Because it ensures the evidence is rock solid and can actually stand up to scrutiny in court. It's all about validation, validation, validation. All right, now we get to what is, for me, the most fascinating part of all of this. What happens when the suspect gets smart and deletes the evidence? They wipe the messages, the photos, the call logs. How on earth do investigators find something that's supposed to be gone forever? So you might think, hey, I deleted it, so it's gone. Case closed, right? Dead end. But on a digital level, that's almost never true. And that's because deleting something is not the same as erasing it. Not even close. Let me show you why. The absolute key to this whole magic trick is a small but ridiculously important piece of software called SQLite. You've probably never heard of it, but it's everywhere. It's a simple little database engine that thousands of apps on both Android and iOS use to store their data. We're talking your text messages, your browser history, your contacts, your WhatsApp chats. Pretty much all of it is sitting inside these little SQLite database files. So the easiest way to picture an SQLite database is like a perfectly organized digital library. All the information is stored on what are called pages, and there's a master index that tells the system exactly where to find every single piece of data. All your active, visible stuff, it's all neatly filed away right here. But here's the kicker. When you hit delete on a message or a photo, the database doesn't actually go in and wipe the data clean. Why? Because that would be super slow and inefficient. Instead, it does something much simpler. It just marks the space where that data lives as available for future use. The data itself, it's left completely untouched, just hanging out, at least for a little while. So if the data is still there, how do they find it? Well, the database literally keeps a map. The main file has something called a free list, which is exactly what it sounds like. A list of all the pages that have been marked as deleted or available. And for our forensic investigator, finding that free list, well, it's like finding a treasure map that leads directly to piles of supposedly lost data. But wait, there's more. It's not just about those whole deleted pages. Even within the active pages, when you delete smaller records, it creates these little empty pockets of unused space. It's called slack space, and these little gaps can be full of fragments and ghosts of even older data. It's amazing what you can find in there. And this really brings it all home. When a record gets deleted, look, only a tiny part of its technical header gets changed to mark it as free. But the payload, that's the juicy part, the actual content of your message or your search query, that is very often left completely intact. It's just sitting there, waiting for a forensic tool to come along, find it, and piece it back together as evidence. So when you step back and look at the big picture, what you see is this constant, high-stakes cat and mouse game. Device manufacturers like Apple and Google are building stronger and stronger security into their phones every year. And on the other side, you have forensic developers in a never-ending race to find new ways to get around it and pull that data out. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of the big takeaways here. First, our mobile devices are absolute gold mines of evidence in almost any modern investigation. Second, getting that data requires bypassing some seriously sophisticated, multi-layered security. Third, you need specialized hardware and software to do the extraction and analysis. And finally, and maybe most importantly, deleted is pretty much a myth, all thanks to how file systems like SQL actually work. And that leaves us with a really critical question to chew on. As our digital lives become more and more secure, as our phones get even harder to crack, we get more privacy, which is a great thing. But what does that mean for digital justice? There's this fundamental tension, right, between our individual right to privacy and society's need to find evidence to solve crimes. And figuring out how we balance those two things, well, that's going to define the next chapter of our digital age.